The Archdiocese of Chicago is a vibrant and diverse faith community. We celebrate our faith through worship, evangelization, and reaching out to the needy. Welcome to Catholic Chicago.
Good morning, and welcome to Mission Matters Live, a program focused on promoting a spirit of mission among the people of God in the Archdiocese of Chicago. My name is Megan Mio, and I'm the director of the Global Mission Office. Our engineer is Clint. You're listening to WNDZ 750 AM. Mission Matters airs on the second Wednesday of the month at 8 a.m. Central. This morning, we're speaking with Elise Frederick, Executive Director of the Mission Doctors Association, and Dr. Brian Medernach, one of their missioned Catholic doctors who practices here in the Chicagoland area. Following Christ's call to heal the sick, Mission Doctors Association provides life-saving medical care for the poor and training for local healthcare professionals around the world. This medical mission association is based in Los Angeles, California. It is Catholic, compassionate, and committed, and has the goal of working themselves out of a job. Millions of people suffer with preventable diseases, lower quality of life, and shortened lifespans, and MDA partners with others to do something about it. Mission Doctors Association currently sends medical personnel to Ghana, Honduras, Mexico, Peru, Tanzania, and Uganda. And our office has invited MDA to participate in our summer mission appeals this year, as in many years in the past. And we will learn more about this amazing work of healing and mission today. So, good morning, Elise and Dr. Brian. Thank you for joining us and welcome.
Good morning, Megan. Thanks so much for having us.
Good morning, Megan. It's great to be here.
It's wonderful to have you here in studio. We are together.
It's so nice.
And you're here before the mission appeals, so it was wonderful to be able to talk in person.
It was very nice to be. It was really nice to connect with you again.
Awesome, yes. Yeah. So let's get started just talking about the Mission Doctors Association. Yeah. So Elise, how did this work begin, and how long have you been around, and how has it evolved?
So Monsignor Anthony Browers was the founder. And he had attended the Marian Congress in Lagos, Nigeria. He wanted to see how lay Catholics could be of service to our first sisters and brothers. And he said later, what he expected to hear was Monsignor go back to the United States and raise money so we could build a church or a school or a hospital. And over again, he heard three words: we need help. And so he returned to Los Angeles with really what was then a revolutionary idea, to make it possible for lay Catholics to truly serve as lay missionaries. And so this was before Vatican II, before Peace Corps, before Doctors Without Borders. Wow. And so as part of the mission office at that time, although also now independent, Lay Mission Helpers Association was founded to send teachers, nurses, accountants, administrators, people really from all walks of life to serve for 3 years. And then working with the Catholic Physicians Guild 4 years later, he founded Mission Doctors Association. So both these programs are part in Los Angeles, but it is a national program.
So you were at one time connected with the diocese specifically?
Lay Mission Helpers always was. Mission Doctors was always an independent 501c3.
Okay, but born through that mission connection.
Exactly, born through that relationship.
Wonderful.
Exactly.
And has it evolved over the years?
Oh, it has. We started with only the 3-year program. So when my husband and I went through the program, it was 3 years following a 9-month formation program, which was 2 evenings a week and on Sunday afternoons. Now it is a residential program, 4 months live-in program together. So for those groups, it is both the lay mission helpers and the mission doctors coming through that formation for long term. We recognized, however, that doctors can contribute a great deal, even in a shorter amount of time. And for a lot of mid-career physicians, it was better to perhaps go at that length of time. So we created a program for them to go what we call short term, which is a month to 3 months. And even though I've been told by some people that's not really short term, but that to us, given the length of time it takes to get to some of our locations. So it is an opportunity for them to do 1 to 3 months. And we have a retreat seminar. Currently we're doing it at Loyola Marymount in Los Angeles And we hope to be back again in Chicago.
Chicago too. We've got lots of doctors
exactly.
here.
Oh, we want them. We want.
And speaking of Dr. Brian, so tell us about the kind of healthcare that's offered. What does it look like to go on one of these shorter, longer term experiences?
Yeah, so I think everything's going to vary a little bit depending on the location you're at and the resources and the climate and kind of how things are locally and what healthcare is available. In terms of Mission Doctors Association, we always partner with the local bishop, so we have the vicariate or the archdiocese, and a lot of times they have some infrastructure there. But the majority of the healthcare we provide, it kind of comes in different, you kind of have to be a jack of all trades. So a lot of it is hospital-based settings, so we have a small hospital, not what you'd think of here, but very smaller hospitals, a lot of open units where there might be multiple beds in one room, and with more limited resources, whether that be not all the medications we have or a staff that doesn't have as much training. But we both inpatient care, so patients that are sick that need hospitalization. There's clearly clinic, so responding to chronic diseases like we would here, but then also a lot of acute issues that pop up. So it's kind of doing everything all at once, right? You might be in clinic and it might be kind of like an immediate care here, it might be like an emergency room, it might be clinic, and then hospital care, and then there's also home visits depending on where you're at. So a lot of times maybe you are walking a few miles to get to a village to set up kind of a clinic in that setting, or going into a thatched roof house to attend to a patient who might be bedbound. So it's kind of a variety of different types of care, and you kind of have to be ready for all of it.
Yeah, sure. And these are communities that have requested, as you said, people said we need help.
That's exactly right. That's exactly. We want to go as a responsive organization. So it is the Catholic bishop who is part of the request, and so they make that request. We then usually visit a site. We often have one of our doctors go, to make sure that the site is sustainable, and then we can begin a relationship. And over the years, the two organizations, Lay Mission Helpers and Mission Doctors, have served in, I think it is 60 countries. And so in some locations, we have been very successful in working ourselves out of a job, and that's really the goal.
Yeah, right. Yeah, thank you for mentioning that. I think that's very interesting. But I mean, it sounds too like some of these sites are really remote. Really, you're going somewhere where there hasn't been this offered for many years or ever, potentially.
Yeah. So yeah, I think again it depends on where you're going, because some of these can be urban areas or accessible to the airport and then right to the clinic. But where we were at in Peru, my wife Antoinette Lulo, she does family medicine, and we have a little bit of a journey from Chicago. We mentioned earlier, so born and raised here in Chicagoland, and trained here and practiced here. But we would have to take a flight, and there's no direct flight to Lima from Chicago, so we're going through another airport, either Houston or Miami or Panama. And we get to Lima, and then we have to take another plane from Lima into the jungle area of the Amazon, so Iquitos. And there's no roads. That's the largest city in the world, I believe. That population-wise, it has no roads to get there directly. So you have to fly into Iquitos to get there, or a boat. So you can't drive into it. And then we were 2 boat rides on the river for 6 hours to get to Santa Clotilde, where we were living and working. And I know similar travel at other places as well.
Right, yeah. Well, that's one example of how remote we're talking here.
And it serves 22,000 people up and down the river. This small Catholic hospital is responsible for providing care to that community, many indigenous among them.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, we'll talk some more about your experience a little later in the show. But then I wonder if you, Elise, could talk more about the values of
Absolutely.
MDA. It is Catholic, compassionate, and committed. Tell us a little bit more about what that means.
We wanted to try to be very clear about who we are as an organization, right? So we are Catholic and unapologetically. We're motivated by faith. Our doctors who are serving in response to their faith. And that, is a pretty strong witness when people are doing that, right? And then we're globally conscious. We're aware of our call as being a member of a global church. And additionally, we want to make sure our people are spiritually prepared. So that is a big part of the work we do in formation. On the compassionate side, we always say, we have a preference for the poor, which is obviously part of Catholic social teaching as well. We're respectful of other cultures, which is essential as well. And we're aware of the collaborative nature of mission, that we go not necessarily to bring everything and we're receiving so much in return. And on the committed, really, it's a cooperative response. As we were saying, it's in responding to a need. And our doctors are all fully qualified, trained physicians. So, professionally prepared falls under the committed, and also working very hard to be faithful stewards of the support that people provide for us.
Well, on that note, would you just say a word about the staff and the board for MDA?
Oh, I would be happy to. So we have a small staff of dedicated employees, and you've met most of them.
Very hands-on.
Exactly. Jessica is our communications director. Lori does so much. She's much more than admin. She does so many things in terms of coordinating all our mission co-ops and that. And then Amy Garcia is our new program coordinator. I shouldn't call her new. She's been here 2 years now. And so Amy is doing the visitations and working with the doctors who are planning the short-term assignments as well to help prepare their trips. And so that's the four of us.
And you have a board as well.
We have a board of directors that is made up of about 50% of those who've served themselves, and others are members of the community, people, professionals in accounting and other areas that they can bring that professionalism to the board.
And it sounds like you said there were so many different countries that MDA has worked in that there have been times when you said you work yourself out of a job, but sometimes you have to make decisions. Should we start a new one? Should we not wait? Or there's been an ask and we have to assess. And so I'm sure the board is part of that decision making.
That's absolutely true, because there are locations where we might want to be, and yet we recognize there are some limitations based on the fact that we would be sending one person all by themselves.
Right.
It's Jesus sent them out 2 by 2, so we try to do the same thing.
Truly missionary. This is absolutely a wonderful example. Well, it's time for our break, but we'll be back in just a moment to continue our conversation with Elise Frederick and Dr. Brian Medernach of the Mission Doctors Association. Stay tuned.
Catholic Charities has had the privilege of helping people in need in Cook and Lake County for more than 100 years. We would like to take this opportunity to thank our frontline workers who, despite the unprecedented challenges of the past 2 years, continue to excel at their jobs every day. From the warehouse staff members who pack boxes of nutritious foods for low-income seniors, to the dedicated WIC employees who have remained open for families with children under the age of 5, to our volunteers and restaurant partners who ensure that meals are available for those experiencing hunger, to our service coordinators and our professional counselors who continue their vital work in innovative ways, to our food pantry staff, and to all those who work at Catholic Charities Call Center, finding solutions for every person who reaches out to us for help. Charity is at the heart of all you do, and we salute you.
I am a seminarian.
The Church needs compassionate and well-trained priests to help guide each of us through life.
What inspires me, what draws me always to the priesthood is continue to see priests be a beacon of hope for other people.
You can play a part in the education of these young men as they prepare for a life of service to others.
I want to be that beacon of hope too, and it sets my heart on fire.
To support our seminarians, make your gift at archchicago.org/seminarian fund or call 312-534-7959.
Catholic Charities offers a wide variety of volunteer opportunities to those who want to share their time and help us serve people in need. Whether it's stocking the shelves of our food pantries, helping refugees learn the English language, tutoring school-aged children, becoming a mentor to young adults, sorting clothes in our clothing rooms, serving hot meals to those who are facing homelessness, or delivering meals and making cards to lift the spirits of our homebound seniors, we are deeply grateful to all those who want to join in our mission of mercy. Volunteer opportunities are updated weekly for people of all ages at ccofchicagovolunteer.com, or just call us at 312-655-7053. That's 312-655-7053. Thank you for helping us follow Jesus' call to serve our neighbors in need.
Welcome back to Mission Matters Live. I am Megan Mio, Director of the Global Mission Office, and I'm here with Elise Frederick, Executive Director of the Mission Doctors Association, and Dr. Brian Medernach, a local Chicagoland doctor who was sent on mission with MDA. The Mission Doctors Association trains, sends, and supports Catholic doctors and their families across the United States to serve people of all faiths in some of the most underserved areas of the world. This mission of healing provides direct patient care and training for local professionals striving toward the goal of sustainable healthcare. Now, in our last segment, we were talking more generally about the history and mission and values of the Mission Doctors Association. So I'd like us to just talk a little bit more about you two in our next segment. I usually like to start there, but I felt like we needed to kind of get the lay of the land with MDA, and now I think we can speak more specifically about your own involvement. So if Elise, you get us started, how did you first get involved?
Well, you know, I was my husband and I were newly married, and we had stopped. It was my very first Mother's Day. We stopped at the parish where we were married on our way to drive to his folks' house, which his mother. Happy Mother's Day. And there was a priest at a mission co-op speaking about our sister program, Lay Mission Helpers. And, you know, we're listening, and oh, isn't that nice, there's a program like that. And then it was actually Monsignor Tony Luer, and I have to say that because people in Los Angeles, if they hear this, we all love Tony Luer so much. So he says there's a couple from an adjoining parish from Nativity preparing to serve, and I always joke about this when I do Mission Co. I think light bulbs went off over our head, kind of like that cartoon. We looked at each other, well, that's what we're supposed to do. So, you know, we spoke with Father after, and then we wound up serving with Lay Mission Helpers for 3 years in the northeast of Thailand, the two of us, with the Lay Mission Helpers. And when we came back, I was invited to work for Mission Doctors, and that was 43 years ago.
Whoa!
So, so so I'm very blessed. I mean, this is an organization that is 60 years old, so I haven't been there since the first minute, but we, you know, we've been very blessed to have that service, and then I've obviously been blessed to work for Mission Doctors all these years.
Yeah, and you have traveled and joined doctors.
I have been to the hospitals, and I've been able to see, you know, the work that they do, and beyond the work. I've told you a story where, you know, I watched just the compassion interaction between a physician and a patient's daughter. I was so moved by. These are the things that you can't teach someone to do. That it is the outpouring of their own faith, their own compassion in interacting with a patient and their family. It makes a tremendous difference in the lives of people. And you might say, well, you know, that isn't, you know, true missionary work, or you're not preaching something. It's like, oh yeah. Yeah, people notice, and they'll say, oh, you go to Mass every day. I noticed that. So it does make a difference.
Yeah, this is the mission through witness,
exactly.
A witness of a way of life.
Exactly.
Wonderful.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And Brian, tell us your story.
So we got together with Mission Doctors actually by a referral from another friend who was doing mission work in Guatemala. So we talked about, you know, working ourselves out of a job. So my wife Antoinette and I will take a step back and kind of go from there. Is that we had some Jesuit background. My wife went to Loyola for undergrad, and I did medical school at Loyola, and so you know, just through social justice and Catholic social teaching, we had the opportunity to go on short-term trips and experience what life was like and what healthcare was like outside of the U.S. And I think for me, after my first year in medical school, was able to go down to San Lucas Toleman on Lago Atitlan in Guatemala. And so Father Greg Schaefer, who's since passed, was a parish parishioner, a priest out of Minnesota, who started a clinic and everything down there. There's quite a story there. But around the corner from him was a little hospital called Santiago Atitlan. And we went over there to visit. Little beknownst to me, several years later, that would kind of come full circle. So when I finished training, my wife and I both said, we just kind of knew from, I don't think there was one exact moment, but I think through our experiences over the years, we said, we want to make a difference. We want to have equity and social justice and give access to care that people would otherwise not have access to. So we were looking for places to go. We actually ended up, another Loyola grad, Father Dr. Jack McCarthy. So he's a Norbertine priest, and he had been on mission as a priest physician in the remote jungle of the Amazon. And so he's a Loyola graduate as well. So he would always come back and try to recruit, and, as he says, shake the bushes and see if there's any students or doctors who'd be willing to come down. And he heard through the grapevine that, there's a wife and a husband pair that are thinking about coming. And when he heard that, he came and talked to us about it. And we had different options, Catholic options and other options that weren't Catholic. And I think through his example, and we went down there sight unseen, but we had friends and other people had gone down there. So we started there for a year. Yeah. And it's so we actually started on our own with working with Father Jack at his invitation. And we kind of got towards the end and said, well, like most people, we don't have the funds to repay loans and stay down here, but there's a need. We like it here. This is our calling. This is our mission. And so the friend who was serving in Guatemala, in this hospital I had visited 5 years previously, she said, I worked with some Catholic doctors from Mission Doctors Association. If you guys want to stay there, you should reach out to the director and apply. So in the middle of the jungle, when we had scarce internet, when we went into the city of Iquitos, we filled out our application. And, through the work of the Holy Spirit, Elise called and said, well, we're looking for another Spanish-speaking site because they have established care and Guatemalan doctors to continue the work in Santiago. So she came and made that long journey and visited us, and she said, if you guys are going to come to the formation, we'll take you. And so that's kind of the short start of,
when was that? What year was that?
2011. It was 2011, yeah.
My goodness.
Because we did the formation, I think that was the beginning of 2012. I'm remembering right, yeah.
Right. Wow. Yeah. Seems like yesterday, I'm sure. Oh my goodness. Yeah. So tell us about what it was like to serve, Dr. Brian. What impact did it have on the local community in Peru?
Yeah, so it's hard for us to say, I think, going there, I think Father Jack had laid the groundwork to really allow for us to continue the service, and like Elise said, the Catholic witness. And I think the witness is, not sitting there preaching, but more the witness of going to Mass, living out our values, and also just the solidarity, right? Being with the people,
living alongside.
The fact that they're saying, somebody is coming this far to be with us, we matter, and so I think being able to show that everybody matters. And so I think that was, in terms of that service, the biggest impact. But I think, as Elise says, we've talked about it before, a lot of times we end up, getting more than maybe we give, even though we go down there to
I always
serve,
say God can't be outdone in generosity.
Right, the tiny little bit of effort that we put in, and it comes back 1,000-fold.
Exactly.
Well, then let's talk about the impact on you and your wife.
Yeah.
How did that experience change you?
Well, we went down there with no kids. We came back with 2.
Okay. That's one
well,
big
I think
thing.
the impact, I think it just changed, everything, how we practice medicine, how we advocate for our patients, right? Because it's the same anywhere in the world. You want what's best for your patients, and you want them to have access no matter what the resources are, and just trying to provide, what is just and equitable. And so I think being there, I think that's what we were able to help provide, right? Because sometimes they wouldn't have access to that. So through Mission Doctors Association, through the Bishop's Office, through the Catholic Church, through the resources and prayers, we're able to give those things to people while we're there. And I think just our impact coming back here, I think just carries over, right? You kind of still practice that way, seeing patients here at the bedside, and I know for me, especially in Chicagoland, now I'm Spanish speaking. I was before, but fluent. And I think for here, I can't. I've had so many patients come and say, "Thank goodness, I'm so happy to have a doctor that's completely fluent and able to care for me and understand what I'm saying." So
absolutely.
I think it's continued, and we've able to go back each year. We try to go back for a short period of time, and so to bear witness to our family, to come on mission co-op and speak at parishes, and have our kids come. So they've gone and. Now I think they've had 3 trips down to see the clinics.
What a gift to give to your kids too, to see that, see of course your witness and then your giving of yourselves, and building community, building those relationships over and over. That's a beautiful gift. Thank you. And thank you for sharing it with our parishes. I mentioned at the top of the show that you're here, Elise is here for the appeals, and then you've come out to visit those parishes for those visits. It really is, it's not just about, the collection itself, of course. It is really about helping people see what the church is doing, that people of all vocations can be missionaries and can be witnesses. And then I think it inspires folks to see the breadth of how the church works around the world. And then, of course, you might inspire some doctors, to join and
that's
to give.
A big part of our goal. Is and the other part is so among doctors. We send doctors, dentists. We also send nurse practitioners and physician assistants. So for both the short and long-term programs.
Yes.
So we're called Mission Doctors Association, but we accept, and these are single people, married couples, families, people straight out of a residency, people who are in an early retirement, or that short-term program works really well for mid-career folks that are thinking about maybe in the future. We'll do a long-term service.
Do a long-term later, right. When you had said to me earlier, I hope you don't mind if I repeat it, your answer is yes.
Yeah,
exactly. If somebody is interested, the answer is yes.
Yes.
We will find the place, we will find the length of time, the area that needs your skill set, whatever it may be.
If it isn't Mission Doctors, there are so many programs with whom we know that we are able to make a connection for others. We want to make it possible for people to really live that. I know lay mission helpers coined this expression, and I really do love it. It's, share your gifts, live your faith. And that is really, I think it is what it's about.
Yeah, absolutely.
I have to give them credit.
And I think from my experience, it's true. Elise is a magnificent director, and the answer is yes. And she finds ways to make things work and make it flexible, and also the other side, like, well, this might not be the best fit. Why don't we look at this organization, or why don't we look at this other location, or why don't we maybe think about this in 6 months? It's never no, it's yes, and let's see how this works for you. And I think same thing, sitting there when people come, if we do mission appeals after Mass, they'll come and talk, say, how can I get involved? And first of all, for doctors, being how busy we are, there's no good time, right? If you're thinking about it and reflecting upon it, you just kind of have to move forward and really committed. Discern and think about it. And is it between jobs? You have 3 months and you can go on short term. If you're not ready yet, is it praying for the missionaries? Is it following the blogs and listening to the story? Is it, I'm not physically able to go, but I can donate to the cause and follow the work that's going, because we can't do this alone. And we know I know sitting there in Peru at a desk or at a bedside attending to a patient, there's a lot of people behind me, Elise in the office and family and friends, but all the people that we never meet, but I know there's support, and I know there's prayers going, and so there's people can help in any ways. And I also want to say it doesn't have to be a doctor, it can be anybody in the healthcare field. Or if you have a spouse with lay mission helpers, accountants, and they can go with healthcare people and perform mission as well. So serve.
We need everyone.
That's right.
Yes.
That's exactly it. We need everyone. The church needs everyone.
It's true. So Pope Francis is one of his favorite things to say. Well, it's time for our second break now, if you can believe the time is flying. We'll be back in just a moment to talk more about Mission Doctors Association. Don't go away.
Did you know that Catholic Charities accepts car donations? If you're ready to free up space in your garage and put a stop to all those expenses that go along with owning a car, we will gratefully accept your donation, whether the car is running or not. You choose a pickup time that is convenient for you, and we will make the donation as easy as possible, free of charge. You'll receive a charitable donation receipt as well. We accept all types of vehicles nationwide, and you will know that your donation is made to Catholic Charities, an agency you can trust. To learn more about donating your car, call 877-786-4483. That's 877-786-4483. Thank you.
Ancestry and genealogy are more important every day. People all over the world are wanting to learn more about their family heritage for personal and for health reasons. At Catholic Charities, we are hearing from adults who lived for a brief time at St. Vincent's Orphanage, the wonderful life-affirming agency that operated out of our headquarters for 91 years, serving thousands of women, children, and families until it closed in 1972. Our post-adoption services help adults who want to learn more about their experience at St. Vincent's. Our compassionate staff members provide whatever family background information they can offer, along with support and reunion services. To learn more, call 312-655-7093. That's 312-655-7093. The spirit of St. Vincent's lives on in the inspiring stories that continue to emerge today.
People always say, how can you spend your day with 3-year-olds? Seeing the changes that they go through and just the journey and how they grow, this is a very rewarding job. Even though at the end of the day, we're not the highest paid people on earth. And when I have a parent contact me and say, my child loves school, that to me, I'm setting that foundation for their love of learning, because really you are changing lives, you are molding lives.
Shape the next generation of leaders. Teach. Apply today at archchicago.org/schooljobs.
Welcome back to Mission Matters Live. I am Megan Mio, Director of the Global Mission Office in the Archdiocese of Chicago. You're listening to WNDZ 750 AM. I am talking with Elise Frederick, Executive Director of Mission Doctors Association, and Dr. Brian Medernach, a local Chicagoland doctor who has been sent on mission with Mission Doctors Association, and the two of them have been telling us about MDA, Mission Doctors Association. Following Christ's call to heal the sick, Mission Doctors Association provides life-saving medical care for the poor and training for local healthcare providers around the world. So in our last segment, we were discussing your own personal involvement and your commitment to Mission Doctors Association for many years in Elise's case, and for many years, really, in some sense too, for Brian and your wife. So now I'd like to just sort of talk about current events, those places where doctors are right now working through MDA. What's going on in Mission?
Well, I had the opportunity to visit with Father Jack the other day and had a chance to share with him specifically the information about the doctors who are currently in Peru. We have 4 doctors there right now. Dr. Lucy Go is a pediatrician, and she not only stays there at the clinic to provide care, but she also goes out on patient trips to check and see how the kids are doing. And she has accompanied patients when they needed to go all the way to Lima. So patients, she's done a wonderful job. Dr. Zach is a family practice, and he is also taking on a lot of responsibility at the hospital as well, and just a tremendous asset. He has a wonderful blog. There's a link to his blog on our website. Really encourage people to find that and read it. And then we have Dr. Andrew Vincent, who's a high-risk pregnancy specialist, and he is from the U.S. here. He's there for a few months, as he has gone to many other sites with us. And then we have Father, he's not a father yet, Dr. Anthony, who is he's in the seminary in Florida. So, and he is just has shared some remarkable reflections on his time there. Really lovely. So we have some wonderful people there. A young couple just arrived in Uganda, and they have 4 children, and they're both physicians, and they've just begun their 3-year assignment there. And the Druffner family, who return annually to Tanzania, are already making their plans for January. And we have in Honduras, the Stavanoas continue to return. Goodness gracious, the Lou and Marty Coda, they go annually every year to serve in Uganda as well, another different hospital. So we are, it's remarkable to see the coming out of COVID and the numbers also on the short-term numbers coming back up. So, things did kind of stop for a bit during COVID, but we're really happy to see things coming back.
I don't know if this is the right way of putting this, but I feel like people might be very hesitant before they go. They're nervous. Am I going to be able to handle the travel and different context, culture, language, things like that? And then once they go, they can't stop going.
Oh, it's so true. It's so true.
It's like addicting or something. I don't know. It's mission, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
it
it's
is
energizing and inspiring and exciting. You want to keep returning.
Yeah.
Can you speak to that?
Well, right now you mentioned 2 long-term missionaries in Peru, and then 2 of the short-term that are there now. One has been there multiple times.
Yeah,
it was
absolutely.
there working with us. The Stefanoas, who are in Honduras, they were in Peru. So they kind of, you can go to the different sites and see it. And other people have done long-term mission on multiple stints. And I know there's the Burkitts who are in Guatemala. They have done 2 stints in Guatemala and Africa, and 3 maybe.
Yeah, no, they were in originally before they had children. They were in Ghana, and then Cameroon, and then so they're very involved. We're very fortunate to have the people we have involved with this organization. But I do also agree it's the mission that is so compelling. For physicians, it's that this is why you became physicians. It was to be able to be with their patients and really make a difference in their lives. And even though you don't have the same diagnostic equipment, you don't have the same tools, you don't have the same medications necessarily, Kate Bolton would say, a child may die for the lack of a medication, and as a pediatrician, this is actually something I need to carry, and I need to carry this back with me to the United States so that I have this perspective as I'm in my own practice in the United States.
Yeah, I was reflecting with my wife, talking about that, right? The trying to bring justice, right? And you're at a bedside of somebody who may die for lack of resources, and or may die for lack of doctors. So if we can prevent some of that and be there to serve and to witness, right? Is very important.
Yeah, I mentioned at the beginning, one of the kind of like taglines for MDA is the preventable diseases and deaths, that we are just so lucky in this country to have these things accessible to a certain extent, and that other parts of the world
When I'm speaking at the mission co-ops, I say, we're fortunate we have in the United States about for every one of us there's 350 doctors, right? For each. But in most of the places where we serve, there's less than 1 doctor for 20,000 people. So that's the drastic difference, difference. Yeah. And to think that in a 1-hour period, there's going to be over 300 deaths from malaria alone in sub-Saharan Africa, predominantly among children under 5. And these are some of the this is what pulls us forward. These are the things that we're trying to reply to.
Yeah. So this gets right to my next question about the challenges and the successes. So can you share with us some examples of?
The challenges are going to a location that doesn't have all the resources you need. But this young couple, when they got to Uganda, they recognized they thought perhaps more C-sections were being done than were necessary, and so they contacted us and they said, if we had a fetal heart monitor, we could make sure the babies are doing okay and perhaps prevent some of these. Well, we were able to find the funding for that, and they have it already, and she's already begun the training with the midwives, and it's, we're hopeful that that will help reduce the number of C-sections that are being done at that hospital, because ultimately, then it's healthier for the women to not have had a C-section if it was unnecessary.
Wow.
Yeah.
That gets to the kind of, you really are listening and
exactly.
Paying attention and bringing that expertise to say, oh, this is a way we can solve this problem.
Exactly.
Or potentially,
exactly.
Yeah, save lives that way.
Yeah.
Can you share an example of some challenges and successes that you've seen?
Yeah, I mean, I think the logistics are always a challenge when you're that remote, right? And there's so much unpredictability. One story I think maybe might ring true, and this didn't happen every day, but it certainly happened several times a year, if not once a month, where we just have a case that's just looking at resources, things happen or they don't happen. So there was a young child who had a congenital defect at birth. The medical term is imperforate anus, so that anatomy of the intestines isn't appropriate, to allow for a proper passage. So as a child, he ended up saved his life. Father Jack was there at that time and was able to get him to Iquitos to get the surgery to at least do the ostomy, right? So diverting it, and he had the ostomy bag. And then as he grew, it was supposed to be reversed. Well, he went back to his small community, even probably 4 or 5 hours upriver from where we were at in the clinic, and ultimately never had the surgery. But then he, at about age 9, he had a complication of this where the ostomy prolapsed. So kind of the intestines, I know medical people listen, but it prolapsed. I mean, it came out where it shouldn't be, right? And that puts you at risk for sepsis and dead tissue and dying. So his parents, they subsistence farmers, they are at the house with them. They came back from their chakra, they call it. They plant yucca and corn, and they put him in the canoe. So he was in the canoe with his dad coming down river, terribly ill. He got there several hours later, and his pulse was really not palpable, and we got the IV in him, the IV fluids, and it's at night, so we can't travel on the boat at night. So we gave him antibiotics and fluids, and at daybreak we got on the boat because it was not weather permitting for a flight evacuation, so occasionally we'll be able to call and in coordination with the local Ministry of Health get a flight evacuation, but you can't predict the weather, so it wasn't safe, so we got in the boat. 6-hour boat ride later, we got him to the regional hospital where a Peruvian surgeon was there, and he said, it was a very tough surgery, and the kid was very sick. And he walked out, and then the nurse that we have in Iquitos that helps accompany our patients, the doctor looked her in the eyes and said, "I've done everything I can. It's in God's hands now." And he made it through that surgery, and then he went to Lima and had, over the course of several months, his reconstructive surgery, and made it all the way back to his town. I saw him after he gets back from Lima. He happily lifts up his shirt to show all his scars, but there's no ostomy there, right? And so if you can imagine something, like that. And these things happen.
Yeah. Wow. So. Yeah, and the challenges are clear there with the travel time and the modes and the assessing what's the best, the fastest, the safest way to deal with this. And I'm sure it doesn't always lead to, survival in every case, too.
No, it doesn't. Just sadly.
Yeah, given this injustice. And I think that the remoteness, that's a very big issue in a lot of these cases. So.
And many people ask us, is this like Doctors Without Borders, or is it like, other organizations? And I say, well, in one way, in that we send and support medical professionals, but we're not in an emergent area. We're not in places where there's an ongoing current emergency in terms of the war or something like that, or refugees. That's not our calling. But I always tell people, if that's going on in the world, support CRS. They'll always make you proud to be a Catholic, the work they do.
You can do that too. That's fine.
You can do that too. Please do.
Support that.
Exactly. Yeah. But the work that's done by the doctors is truly selfless. For one thing, they're living very simply. They're not going to tell you that, but they're living very simply, and they're really dealing with bringing all their skills to the call. Right? They're there bringing everything they were trained to do. And I believe that is, it's fulfilling. It can be frustrating. It can be frustrating.
Sure. and
but
break your heart.
exactly,
at times.
exactly.
The other thing that kind of crosses my mind as we're talking, and having spoken to many missionaries over the years of working in this office, is the gift of hope too.
Yes.
That being present, you talked about, well, just being there with people. Somebody came a long distance to be with you, to provide what you may need to a community, but the fact that yes, there is hope, that these treatments are possible, you know, perhaps for communities that like to have an ostomy bag, like, I mean, wow, in the middle of the Amazon is wild, you know, but this is a child who otherwise would not have survived.
At Santa Clotilde, there are so many children who are with us now that would not otherwise have been. I met a little girl on one of my trips there who had lost a leg because she had a snake bite, and she was home alone then for 5 hours because, as you said, her parents were in the field working, and by the time they got home, her leg was turning black, and by the time they then had to come down 5 hours, and so she lost her leg. But this is a girl that comes regularly to the hospital and has a prosthetic, and when she gets a little taller, she goes and gets a new prosthetic, and
that's cute.
Yeah, she's very dear. She's a very dear young lady.
Yeah, well, the possibilities.
Exactly, exactly.
Great.
When people work together.
Yeah, absolutely, right. And the possibilities that when people are sharing their expertise.
Exactly.
Can happen. So it's time for our last break. If you can believe it, time is flying by. We'll be back to conclude our conversation with Elise Frederick and Dr. Brian Medernach of Mission Doctors Association. Stay tuned.
Catholic Charities' Refugee Resettlement Program has been especially busy this year, assisting individuals and families who have fled dangerous situations in their homeland, including Afghanistan and the Ukraine. The Refugee Resettlement Team helps with everything they need to start to rebuild their lives in a new country, including housing, employment, clothing, food, English classes, and referrals for legal and immigration services. The refugees are tremendously grateful for the compassion and practical help they're receiving, and they're giving back and helping each other plan for a brighter, safer future. Volunteer opportunities are currently available for those who would like to be family mentors and tutors so children and adults can practice English. To learn more about these rewarding opportunities, call 312-655-7096. That's 312-655-7096.
I feel special. I feel great. I got good grades.
We've seen a huge surge in our kids now meeting or exceeding grade level. Come check us out. You may have never thought we were an option before.
Our school communities provide students with academic excellence and character education in a supportive and stable learning environment. Come see for yourself. Visit archchicago.org/findaschool.
Community is core to Catholic Charities' founding mission. For more than 100 years, we have met people and families where they are, serving anyone in need, regardless of their faith, gender, race, or ethnicity. As our world absorbs the economic, political, and social aftershocks of the pandemic, 50% or more of the 6 million people living in Cook and Lake counties have little or no savings. They are a paycheck away from zero. We are deeply grateful to everyone in the Catholic Charities community who partners with us to alleviate the suffering of the people we serve and offer them a better path forward. We are witnessing a message of mercy and hope to a world very much in need. Learn more at CatholicCharities.net.
Welcome back to Mission Matters Live. I am Megan Mio, Director of the Global Mission Office, and I'm here with Elise Frederick, Executive Director of the Los Angeles-based Mission Doctors Association, and Dr. Brian Medernach, a local Chicagoland doctor who has been sent on mission to Peru. Since 1959, MDA, Mission Doctors Association, has trained, sent, and supported Catholic medical professionals from across the United States to serve people of all faiths in some of the poorest and most underserved areas of the world. This mission of healing provides direct patient care and training for local professionals. The goal is sustainable healthcare wherever MDA goes. So we've been talking about that, what that might look like, and thank you for sharing these stories of both challenge and success that you have personally witnessed. So I'd like, in our last segment here, for our listeners to learn about how they can get involved, how they can support. Of course, we would welcome that. So how can people learn more about Mission Doctors?
Well, our website is, it's real easy, missiondoctors.org. It'll be a simple website to find. And we have information there if you're considering short or long-term service. If you would like to read some of the blogs our doctors write, they're beautiful and very deeply reflective on how this has an impact on them spiritually as well. So please, visit the website and learn more. And then reach out to us as well. Reach out and let us know if you have any questions. You don't have to be committing to serve short or long term if you just want your questions answered. We're happy to be a resource for you. Yeah. So that's in terms of how we can share that work with people is on the website. It really helps. And we have, a newsletter. We have other things. People are welcome to sign up for our newsletter on the webpage as well.
And you're on Facebook.
And we're on Facebook. And we're
all the places.
We're all the places.
Social media.
Yeah.
Wonderful. And you're talking about those who might be interested. So Dr. Brian, tell us about that discernment process for somebody who might be considering it.
Yeah, so I think, first of all, experiencing it and really thinking about what your goals and objectives are and what you feel called to do. And even if you just haven't, questioning, right? So just ask the question, write the email. And so I think reaching out and getting more information is the best thing to start with. But I think more directly with Mission Doctors, I think good discernment is they do have some kind of weekends where you just get more information. Really, it's what that is, learning about what the process is like. And they have a West Coast retreat, usually just for a weekend in Los Angeles, and we've had some here in the Midwest, and hopefully we'll be having something here in Chicagoland soon. So all those of any specialty of any age. So if you're in medical school, you can go to these and find out maybe how you could help. If you're a resident, thinking that maybe you're going to go when you finish. Or like I said, if you're mid-career, retiring. So it doesn't matter if you're able to go right away. It's always good to get the information. So I think those are a good opportunity, just reaching out to Elise and seeing when it is, and trying to attend maybe one of ththose retreats is a very good way to start, at least if you're interested with Mission Doctors Association. So.
It's really a discernment process because it is an element of the practicality of your career and your expertise and where your gifts might be useful, but it's also about listening to God's call.
Absolutely. Truly. And for the 4 months, for the 4-month program, once we've accepted someone, we've accepted them, but we do let them know this is a period of ongoing discernment. So if at some point during these 4 months you say, I don't think God is calling me to this right now, it's like, we're here to support you. How can we help? Yeah. So, we want to be there to make their service possible, to make the service of these Catholic healthcare professionals possible, but we only want to do it in terms of support.
Yeah, right.
And then briefly, like the 4-month formation, so that, if you kind of come to the agreement, this is something I want to pursue, and Elise says yes, because she always says yes. We went to LA, my wife and I, and there was 4 months of preparation, right? And so that learns about, mission. There's doctors going over to Africa, so you're learning about other cultures. Definitely communication's a big one. Like we were there for a year before, and there's different styles of communication, direct and indirect, and hierarchy, right? So and people might never say no to you because you're a doctor, even though they mean no, and people
authority.
might not communicate things directly to you. And so learning some of these things, because we were there a year already, I wish we would have learned this before.
Oh dear.
So, it is really important, and I think the formation that Mission
Yeah.
Doctors provides is very appropriate and very beneficial to be able to serve the 3 years. So.
Oh yeah, there's a practical element of that intercultural kind of experience. We were talking about that beforehand, that when it comes to healthcare, well-being, understanding of the body, it's different.
And that's even for the short-term people, and that's why we have that for the week. We do a weekend, because even though someone may be going for a month to 3 months, we still want to prepare them. We still want to prepare them, give them some resources, and let them speak with other doctors who've served. Because I think that's truly what people enjoy the most over the course of a weekend, is having a chance to sit at a table and speak with someone who has served at a location they're interested in. And so we have a wonderful, we call them our veterans, the people who've served. Our veteran community comes together, and they love sharing their experience as well.
So wonderful. Yeah, it's important to hear it from a peer, right? Somebody who knows. Yeah. Now we have just a few minutes left. So how can people who are not medical professionals, or those who maybe don't feel that they can go, how else can they support?
In sincerely we ask for prayers. As he was saying, a lot of times it gets to the point where we're just putting a patient in the hands of God. And so please, and sincerely, please pray for our doctors, pray for their families, pray for their patients as well. Additionally, now that you've heard of mission doctors and lay mission helpers, be our ambassadors. Help get the word out there. A lot of people have never heard of these 65-year-old organizations that have been, actually they were the first organizations in the U.S. to send lay Catholics. So, help us get the word out there. You might know somebody who was interested in going to the Peace Corps. Tell them about this, as that. And and Tim Cavanaugh had on his desk during his whole time in Zimbabwe a picture of his 4 young adult daughters. And he said a patient pointed at it once and said, "Dr. Tim, are these your children?" And he said, "Well, yeah," got a little prouder. He said, "Yeah, those are our 4 girls." And he said, and the patient said, then why are you here? And he said, "Well, I'm here because people in the United States love you and they sent me to be here." And so, we always say missionaries are sent not only by God, but by the community of faith here in the United States, and to be received by a community of faith there.
Absolutely. This is the church.
That's right.
The Catholic means universal.
Exactly.
Yeah, we're always connected. I do feel like with our mission appeals, this is one of the gifts that those of you who visit and speak and share your reflections give, is that we sometimes do get kind of in our own little worlds here in the U.S. in general, but here in Chicago, and so you're helping kind of open the eyes of our communities to see the work of the church.
And we're so grateful for the opportunity. We are so grateful, Megan, to you and to the parishes where we've had the opportunity to speak over the years. It is just a blessing for us to have that opportunity to speak with you and all of them.
Yeah, and I think it inspires people to that prayer that you ask for. So thank you for sharing. Now I'm going to say the name of the website one more time for our listeners.
Thank you.
It's missiondoctors.org, spelled out.
Exactly.
So you can learn more. And I also do feel like learning and kind of investigating it is a spiritual activity too, because it inspires then those who you can be praying for, the doctors that are currently serving and their patients, as you said.
Exactly.
So check out those blogs on
Yeah.
missiondoctors.org.
Yeah, they're very moving, and you get a better understanding of the spiritual nature of the work as well, from the internal perspective of the physicians as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes, it is so much more than just service. It's really truly mission.
Exactly.
It's a call. So thank you so much for
you.
joining us
Thank
today,
you.
to both
Thank
of
you.
you,
Yes.
Elise and Brian.
Really our pleasure.
It's amazing work. It's wonderful. As I said, we're glad to have you here visiting us this summer. And those who are listening, check out missiondoctors.org and consider maybe going on mission or perhaps supporting it. Also, lay mission helpers doesn't hurt too, even if you're not a medical professional. We need you for mission as well. So thank you very much for listening. And remember, always be on mission. Bye-bye.